there just seems to be this Wild West phenomena going here. And, with him, of course, he's been arrested, he's been charged, but he hasn't been put on trial. So, he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. However, when, the last time we had you guys here, you nailed the personality type in relationship to what ultimately we started to see in some of the things that would be unfolding with Brian Kohberger. One of the things that I'm really curious now that you guys, the doctors, both have had a chance to see him and to read some more information. What's underneath that personality right now? I mean, he shows up first in court, and of course, in an orange jumpsuit, and everybody goes, "Ooh, look at this evil person." And then, the lawyers get involved and they, spruce him up. And next thing you know, he's in court and he's challenging everything. Okay. But you had mentioned early on, and this was a couple of months ago, long before they arrested him, there would be things in his past, in that personality's past. Now that we know, what else are we missing from your opinions? And Gary, if it's okay, I'll start with Dr. Burgess. KM.
Well, I want to know what there's about 2 years we know nothing about, and that's between high school and when he, I think, starts. But this is when he's supposed to be in rehab, or he's having drug problems or something. That would be very important of how he gets into that, how it goes for him. So there are 2 missing years or 3 missing years we want to know. And then he seems to find himself, if you want to call it that, and he gets into school. And look at what he takes, but he does take the criminal justice route, which is quite interesting. I have questions as to why he didn't kill the other 2 victims in that house. That he, also when he's coming down the stairs or he meets up with the one, that he leaves 2 victims. So that, I think, tells us a lot about what he had planned and what the experience was. Don't forget that, as far as we know, if it's him, this is the first time he has killed. And it's very different, at least from talking to serial killers, of what they think it's going to be like to kill somebody and what it really is like during the time. And it was a knife, a blade type of killing, and had to have a lot of strength, and it could have been very tiring. That's something else that I think we should talk a little bit. I'd be very interested in what Gary has to do, because he encountered that victim and could have taken her out right in the doorway, I guess. So those are 2 things. And I think that you're right on in terms of I hope that whomever is going to be the expert in terms of studying him can give us some answers, because we really need that case to understand what happened to him. Because he comes from an intact family. He's got 2 sisters. There's not a lot of problematic areas, I'd say.
Dr. Brucato, what say you?
Well, a person could count on just a few hands cases of serial offenders, for example, who had rosy childhoods, who didn't come from problematic settings where at least you had one parent who was abusive or drinking or unstable or emotionally abusive or callous or something. And so, what it implies is that there must be some life events to leave this individual feeling that there was a playing field that needed leveling. And we don't know what that is. Now, I have seen some situations where a person comes from a family that was coddling you and telling you how terrific and brilliant and wonderful you were. And then you went out in the world and discovered that you were weird and that you aren't anything like they told you were. And then you are gravely disappointed and shocked that you're weird. That I've seen. And I have seen, situations where a person really only starts feeling that way when they go out in the world in adolescence and start getting rejected by people they're attracted to or things like that. But something, I think, Ann, you would agree, something had to leave this guy angry that the world didn't seem fair no matter what it is, he did. I mean, he tried everything under the sun. I mean, losing weight, trying to, get position of power, trying to be the smartest guy in the room, everything. And he just was too weird. It's like an inability to accept that he put people off. And so it's all projected onto other people. And I think that what my guess is, there's something about him, for reasons that diagnostically we don't understand, that just made him so odd at baseline, and with such a need for control at baseline, that he piled up a long list of people who he weirded out, leaving him feeling very small and very alone and very out of control and very confused. And it may be as simple as that, because you don't really have to be treated badly. You just have to perceive that you were. And it's entirely possible he was treated fine, but he just couldn't understand why everybody rejected him all the time. So that I think when somebody gets in there and gets a full story, they're going to discover this didn't really come out of nowhere. It never does. So that we just have to figure out what it is. And I also, I really want to understand what was going on with him in terms of mental health. Because just like we said, in the database, we found that when you use something other than a gun, you're usually a little unwell. And there must have been something that went on there. I mean, we know he had a pretty significant mental health history. I want someone who has evaluated him properly to tell us. By his own description, he had a whole soup of mental health symptoms. These are not exonerating things, but they may help us understand the idiosyncratic world in which this guy was living. And what was up with his personality, and what were the effects of drugs and alcohol and all of that. But we're going to get a picture eventually. I mean, and what you say, a lot is going to depend on what the evaluators come up with to understand this guy. I think that's the missing piece. Yeah, that's the missing piece. So what we're left with is, he looks an awful lot like a person motivated by fantasy, anger toward women in particular. And I think one of the things we foresaw that is really becoming clear is that if this guy did it, we anticipated a history of offenses that had to do with things like voyeurism and certain perversions that seemed to precede the event, so that you had somebody with this need to establish intimacies with people who didn't even know he was alive, and to kind of control everything about them. I mean, you have to imagine a situation where, like, if somebody would go out to lunch with this guy and he had been watching them, he would know things about them that were so bizarre, like the cereal they eat, and which hand they use to stir the bowl, and your couch is this color, that kind of thing. And somebody weird enough to not even hide it, to just say these weird things, so to me, I think we're going to get to the bottom of what was up with him mentally, if there is anything. And what were the triggering events that kind of pushed this guy? I'm sure there was also an proximal event too.
I agree. Absolutely, yeah. I agree. And I think you'll get more information, not necessarily from him, but from people that know him and have grown up with him. Certainly family members. It would be really important to do good interviews with them, especially the mother. Mothers know their kids from day one. So I always like to talk with the mother.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me and you go to our favorite tree. taking away, yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now, we're taking away, yeah, we're taking away. We'll